Hi, everyone. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. I'm just going to wait a few minutes to see if Remy will come on. I didn't realize I was this technologically challenged, but here we are.
Queen! What's up?
Hi.
How are you?
Thanks for tolerating all my calls just now.
Nah, it's no worries, man. It's great to have you on. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah? Yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
right. I'm all right. One of your compatriots from Zambia told me about this incredible artist called Sampa the Great. Have you heard her? Have you heard of her?
I've heard of her, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we should just announce your arrival in Afrolit with this soundtrack from Zambia.
Yeah.
It's lit. Lit.
Yeah. I don't want to show how bad my dancing skills are, so I'll just
No, no, you
go
just have to
slowly.
sit. We'll just nod our heads. We'll just nod our heads.
Okay. All right. Hey, much better. Less pressure. Congratulations, by the way.
Sorry?
Congratulations
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you
on
so
your
much. I
21st
appreciate it.
birthday.
I appreciate it. I really, really do. You'll have to excuse my poor head wrap game because it's cold as heck in Namibia. So you're gonna have to hold the head wrap game for both of us today.
Okay, I think I'm doing okay for both of us.
All right, great, great, great. So I wanted to start with the song from Sampa the Great because there's a line in it that she says that is absolutely great, where she says she's going to final form in her melanin, and I feel like we've been through a lot this week as Black
We've
people,
been
just
through a
reading the
lot
news. Yeah,
this
especially
week,
where you are. So
and
we
I'm
just
in
want to say
Minneapolis.
Black Power, Black Power.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
But for anyone who's joining us, Mubanga will be reading from the Morning Bird so we can get going. Yeah, so you can start your reading.
Okay. So I'm going to read from the first chapter. How many minutes are you giving me? Should I just go on and
Uh,
on and on? Do I
we'll give
talk?
you we'll give you we'll give you 2 and 45 seconds.
Do I get a timer? Is someone going to be like ding at the end?
No, no, we'll keep quiet and just let you ramble on for an hour.
Okay, I'm used to that. I'll be fine. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. Um, so I heard someone reading this section of my book yesterday. I thought, wow,
Mhm.
they did such a great job. I never do it that great. So I'm gonna try and read as great as they did, even though I don't have the theatrical training.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I'm
Cool.
reading from page 12 of the book, and it says, faced with no answers, I held my breath and waited, focusing in the meantime on the neat lines of Mukule woven in her midnight black hair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Chimuka Muya, follow me, please, the headmistress said, interrupting my self-soothing ritual. I felt myself stand. What could be wrong? Auntie, I pleaded. She shut her bloodshot eyes and collapsed into the arms of one of the men with a wail. Auntie, I pleaded again, as my eyes blurred over with a sudden rush of tears. Taonga held up my bag, and someone behind Vostali received it, while another held my hand and led me out of the classroom. The words, Wondate Chimuka Mawe, pierced my pounding heart. What has happened to Tate? I wanted to ask, but I couldn't find my voice. A lump of pain had settled in the back of my throat, forcing out a scratching croak instead of my voice whenever I tried to talk. My mouth dried up, and I leaned into Vostali, allowing her to cradle me. The headmistress said something to the two men, who nodded and took my hands. But all I heard was the persistent drumming of my heart and those four words. Wondate Chimuka Mawe. I followed in silence. As I floundered towards the school gate, it started to drizzle. Vostali continued screaming. On the stretch to the other side of Lusaka, all the details which I would have missed on any other day stamped themselves permanently in my mind. I counted them absently. 1, the owl singing into the night. 2, the smell of the soil the next morning. 3, the way my mother hadn't looked at me when I greeted her. 4, my friends and I giggling at the back of the hall while we listened to stories of Christmas mornings. 5, playing a round of country game. 6, Wondate Chimuka Mawe. The world stopped. Tate was dead. That's it.
Deep.
Was that 2 minutes and 45 seconds?
Yeah, that was hectic. That was fire. Thanks so much for that.
Thank
That
you
was
for
dope,
letting
man.
me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for the reading. Really appreciate it. And so what will happen is a lot of people in the comments will ask unnecessary questions. It's going to be
Okay.
my job to just ask you the very smart ones, which mostly come from, yeah, so there are no smart questions coming from East Africa, so we'll ignore all of those. And
So
then
they
we
are all
can
in
just take it
Southern
as it
Africa?
comes. Yeah, always. We keep it in SADC, except South Africa. We don't recognize South Africa. Ne?
They're not in SADC.
Yeah, we don't recognize them.
All right, got it.
Yeah, let's start with the morning bird. So I know from reading up about you that you aren't the trademark writer, right? You've had a very long road to into publishing. But how did you, yeah, how did it start? Just for as a way of introducing you to the rest of the Afrolit crowd, but how did you wind up in publishing and writing like your debut?
Long road, walked through deserts without shoes. There were many troubles along the way. There were snakes, there were wild animals trying to devour me, but I made it. So I started writing when I was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
That was my version of grief therapy after my mom died.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize it then, but what I used to do is I used to only write about families, and I would make sure that in those families there were like multiple siblings, because I didn't have any siblings at that time. The sibling I had died. And the whole point of my stories was to create characters who didn't die, that the parents lived forever and the children lived forever and everything was fine. So I guess that was my way of processing what had happened. But I started like seriously writing. Well, I wrote this novel just over 2 years ago. So I started writing it like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But
so it's like essentially 5 years before we actually got to see it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason I say it was like a long journey to publishing was I'm like a super organizer. So I had a spreadsheet where I would say like, this is where I submitted, this was the day I submitted, this is the day I expect a response. And then they'll send you that email. Like, unfortunately, they'll praise you to death. Like, your writing is great, but
Yeah.
so I know how many places I submitted to before I finally got the yes. So it was like
I must ask you, Mubanga, how many places? Because I also have I still have the email folder where all my rejection letters went. So just give us a ballpark figure.
Just like about 100.
Yeah, that's
there were
about
a lot
right.
of there were a lot of I used to highlight in red if they said no outright, and then yellow if they were like, send us more, and then when they saw them more, they're like, too much dying in this book.
Did they also hit you with the we're thinking of going in a different direction, this isn't for us right now, but
this
all
isn't
the best for
us.
your future endeavors, those
All
kinds
the
of
best.
emails?
Yeah, last week I got a rejection. It was like 2 pages long, where they like praise me to death, give me snippets of my short story, which I obviously know, and then at the end they're just like, but we can't.
And how did you, I mean, you obviously wrote the story with sincerity, and you knew it was a story, but it was just a matter of finding the right home for it. How did you stay positive throughout that flood of rejections when they started coming?
So I always assume things will go my way. So when I wrote the first draft, which was very bad, and my cousin was like, hey, like, I know you believe in this, whatever, like, and he was giving me all these statistics, like, lots of writers had to go through this before. And I was like, it's not going to happen to me. Okay, I'm going to submit this one place that I want, and then that's it. I'm going to get
What did you
published.
want? I'm gonna put you on the spot. What place did you want?
I'm not going to say that. I wanted Jacana, and I got Jacana.
Yes, yes, yes. You gotta rep them, rep them.
Yeah, but I mean, what kept me going? I don't like failing. So I was just like, I've made so many people read this already. I just have to get it in print. It was my dad's personality coming out for me.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you think? What do you think was the final thing that convinced people, not people, but like your publisher, that it was a story not only worth having, not only worth writing, but also worth getting out in the world? What do you think it is about the Morning Bird that got them?
I think, I mean, I don't know. I can only guess from like things that they said. On the final night, one of the judges said he appreciated that the writing was sort of simple and not trying too hard to,
Yeah.
And I think that came from the fact that I was writing from a child's voice, right? So sometimes I would go overboard in my earlier drafts, and my one cousin would always pull me back. He's like, how old is this kid? Would she really say this? So I'd always have to like be true to
Always.
what the character would
People
say.
have only been used to like small white children. They don't know black children are smart by 6.
Aye. Yeah.
These white
But
kids who don't run when they see danger. Blacks, we run from 4, my friend. We know things,
yeah. So I mean, those are the things that I heard them say, and some of them, one of them called it like a critique on, I guess, like Zambia's political decisions in the 90s, which I wasn't really thinking that when writing it, but those are the things I heard them say.
Yeah. And how did you arrive at the simple voice in which the story is told? Because I know now you're currently doing your creative writing degree, but so you didn't have that from the get-go. How did you arrive at that voice?
A lot of Google. I promise you, the day I started writing it, I had a notebook in my hand and I Googled how to write a novel.
All right, nice.
And that's how I started.
Yeah. And now that you are in a creative writing workshop, do you find that helpful? Is it strange having already been published and now you're doing this thing now? How do you find that experience?
So my fine arts program actually starts in September. I've just graduated from something else because I'm crazy and addicted to school. So I don't know what it's going to be like. I know it will be a small class, but like the MFA programs are weird. Like, you're going to learn about writing, but they want you to know some stuff about writing and prove that you have some kind of publication history. So I'm excited, a little nervous, because sometimes the expectation can be a bit high. Like, oh, you've published a book already. Do you know ABCD? So I don't know. We'll see.
All right. So there are some interesting questions coming through. I'll read them to you. James, all the way from Kenya, wants to ask, which was more valuable to you, the Kalemba Short Story Prize or the Dinana Prize?
Both are value. Do they mean valuable like money?
James is East African, so I think he's talking about money, definitely.
It was two different amounts, right? So I was paid more for the Dinani Prize, but I was also giving more words. But like value-wise, they are different. The story that I won for the Kalemba Prize, I wrote specifically for Zambia. I didn't want it to get published anywhere else. So I submitted and waited. And like I said, I always just assume it will go my way. So even though I was nervous that day, I just
Thank
said,
goodness you didn't enter Kane. Eh? Thank goodness you didn't enter Kane.
I didn't have anything eligible for Kane.
Yeah, thank you for not entering. Otherwise, some of us would be sitting here wondering what our lives are going. Huh?
Yeah.
Next question. Next question. Is it true that second novels are more terrifying to write?
I am working on my second novel. I will have an answer in a few
Mm-hmm.
weeks.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Tasha from Zambia. Oh wow, her 5G is working. She can send us comments from Zambia. Says great
Ah,
amount
what
of
are you saying
historical
about Zambia?
detail. She says great amount of historical detail dresses the story. Were the historical details intentional?
Yeah, partly it was intentional, but I dislike saying dates and times. I don't know why. Sometimes I have to, but if I
Mm-hmm.
can get round to it, I like to just use things that happened to tell people when the story is happening.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. Nice, crisp answers. This is what happens when you talk to lawyers, bruh. Everyone needs to do a bloody law degree before they do creative writing. Nice, straight answers. Next question. From Dengwa, who's also from Kenya, wants to know, did you hide any secrets in the Morning Bird that you can bet only a few people will find? Also, the title is intriguing. What inspired it?
Yeah, I hid a few things in there that some people can find.
Mm.
So my main character's birthday, Chumuka's birthday, is on May 16th, and that was to honor my little sister who died in 1996, and her birthday was
Mhm.
on May 6th.
Mm.
Yep.
All right, all right. And the title? What inspired the title?
So I don't know about you, Remy, but titles are so hard for me. I go through so much pain just to get the title. I'll finish the story and I'll go weeks just going through like ugly, bad titles. It's the same thing that
Serious.
happened with this one. Serious. It was bad.
Okay. So what was your second choice title for the novel? Like, what were your 5 titles that you went through?
I don't want to say, but at
No, no,
some point,
no. You dodged one question already, so you have to answer this one.
I don't remember if I had a top five, but at some point the story was called Glue. It was
Hmm.
bad. It was
Yeah,
bad.
that's
And I used to try and like justify it to myself, like, well, it makes sense because there's this one scene where this happens. And then my friends, I would ask the people who were reading it, guys, what do you think? And they would just be like, it's okay, but maybe you could like work on it.
all right. All right.
So a friend of mine, actually towards the very end, I had already finished everything, said that it felt like the character was always going through grief, like different stages of grief, or witnessing other people experiencing grief in different ways. So if I could use grief in the title, that would be good. And then the day after she said that, another friend told me a story about how he grew up believing that owls were like omens of, bad things coming, specifically
Mm.
like someone in your family was going to die if you saw an owl. And he
Yeah.
was telling me how they would like chase them away with trees and I had with rocks, and I had never heard that before. So I thought that
Mm.
was interesting. And
No.
yeah, that's where it came from. At the end, I was done.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
final title works. It's exquisite, and I've seen the cover as well. The cover it's fire. It's fire. Chike,
Thank you.
yeah, Chike, all the way from Accra, wants to know if this book thing doesn't work out for you, will you consider a fashion line or a skincare line?
Fun fact, I was a model
Mm-hmm.
long time ago. I don't Maybe I'll do it with him since he's suggesting it. Does he have any like ideas? We
Nah,
could
bruh,
start it.
Chike's a broke guy. Don't look for him if you're looking for investment. Please
Ah,
don't holler at Chike.
so the book thing must work out.
Yeah, it must work out, girl. It's gotta work out. BC, Queen BC of Accra wants to know, how is the literary scene in Zambia? Who are other female writers from Zambia that you'd recommend?
The writers that I know from Zambia are all female. The first book that I read was by Ellen Banda Aku. It's called Patchwork.
Mm-hmm.
You all know Natasha. She was in a previous
Yes!
season. Yes, her book is called
No
No Be
be
From
from
Here.
here.
Yep. Which I also love. And then Namwali is also doing great things for Zambia with
Mm-hmm.
the old drift. I recommend all of them. Look, I recommend everything Zambian, all the food. I recommend even like driving on our potholed roads, everything, the fabric,
Everything, everything but
everything
Zambian
Zambian.
men. Everything but Zambian men.
I didn't say that. You said that.
You wanted to say.
I didn't say that. Look, I'm raising two Zambian men. I don't want to say anything like that.
Okay, Leye, he's a prince from Lagos who's currently hiding out in London. He wants to know whether you know anyone from Central African Republic. This is something we're all trying to find out.
I do.
Wait, like a real person?
A real person. This is the thing, right? Okay, you listen to me. Listen to my statement in full. I know someone. We were in a Fulbright fellowship together a year ago, and I met her once, but I can't remember her name.
So how do you know she was from Car?
Because all of us were introduced by our countries of origin. I know.
We're having trouble finding people from Car, so we are on the lookout for them. Dengwa has another question. Have you read anything that made you view fiction differently?
Differently? No. I've always read fiction, right? So my mom used to teach English literature, and she didn't, I don't know if we just couldn't afford a TV or she just liked always having books around. But I always just did read fiction. Since I started submitting my book, though, I have a new rule. So I only read 5 pages. If I don't like it in 5 pages, then I don't read the rest. If agents can do it to me, I can do it to people too.
Oh, wow.
So
so 5 pages, it's got to grab you. It's got to...
agents do that to us all the time. Send 5 pages. They're like, no, it doesn't have a strong sense.
So what is your current read that you've read and you're like 5 pages in, you're like, yo, this is fire?
I'm not going to say that.
No, I mean, what book are you enjoying right now?
Oh, what book am I enjoying right now? Okay, so right now I'm focusing more on writing, and I've been reading short stories. But the last thing I read was nonfiction. I read One Day I Will Write About This Place.
Yeah, by the binge.
Yes, and it was my first time reading him, actually, and it was so amazing. And it took me a while to pick up something else because it was so good, right? I wanted to like recover from the experience. But I also enjoyed Here Comes the Sun by Nicole Dennis Benn. And those are the last 2 books I read.
Interesting. Cool. Brice has a question. How did you flesh out your characters in The Morning Bird? And what was your writing process for achieving this?
I spit out something called a crap draft, where I just write the first thing that comes to my mind. And then I go back and read and take out the ugly bits. And then I share it with people that I trust, and they give me feedback. And then I just keep going from there. It's like a snowball process. I do have like a character development document that I go back to occasionally just to make sure I'm sticking to like the people that I created. But then, like I heard Aisha say the other day, and it's true, like the characters still, they go ahead and do their own thing. They're like children. You try and control them, they still like make their own decisions.
Yeah. And Queen BC has a follow-up question that asks, are you learning to be more flexible and not have a spreadsheet of expectations?
With my short stories, I don't have spreadsheets because I submit them to so many places. It would take a lot of time for me to make the spreadsheet. I don't know if I'm flexible on expectations. I don't like to expect like a bad outcome. So when I do something, I just expect the good thing,
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, so I've had to be flexible on like time, like when to write. In 2018, 2019, I could write all night because I wasn't with my kids. I was on a paid fellowship. But now I have to think more like, okay, I have schoolwork, I have work, I have mothering work, and then I have to write also. So.
And then I'm sure it's going to be a question that comes up, but how do you make that time? And once you get the time, what is your process for writing?
I mean, I guess I just prioritize the way everybody else does, right? Like you prioritize the things that are important to you. So, I mean, right now we're homeschooling the kids. So we've gotten into a rhythm of that. Wake up in the morning, get the kids ready, do homeschool. I write at night. I write best when everything is silent. When I play with really, really loud music on, but I don't want to hear actual people talking around the house. So I write from like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. I don't sleep. I should sleep more. I'm sure you can see like bags.
Nah,
I
girl,
should
your
sleep.
skin is flawless. We don't see shit. It's
Thank
all just
you.
fire from here. Just fire. Just fire. Chike wants to know, how many readers did you have before submitting your manuscript? So I think he's asking how many people actually saw the original draft before you sent it out to agents.
About 8.
Mm.
Yeah.
Were they friends, family, strangers? Were they?
Some of them were friends, some of them were family, some of them were strangers that I met online in like writing groups. So a little mix.
Nice. Did you trust them like the strangers? Wasn't it
No,
weird?
it was very hard to trust them. A friend of mine was reminding me that actually at the beginning I used to send them chapter by chapter and I used to put passwords on everything, but those drafts were really bad. I didn't need to hide anything. Those
Great.
drafts were bad.
Yeah. Bijou wants to know, how did Zambians react to a story like Inswa where two girls like each other?
Surprisingly well. I think like when Kalimba posted it, I was reading through the comments and only one person was like, oh, I can't agree with the content of this story or something. I actually expected much more, like, I guess, negative feedback on that one from Zambia. But that's why I wrote it for Zambia, right? So when I was writing, I think I was hardest on myself in that story. Like, I was hardest, like in every aspect. I wanted it to be perfect because I was like, even if they hate it, even if they're like, I don't like that two girls are together, they should be like, but it's so perfect that it just has to. So surprisingly well, I think like within my family, sometimes people be like, why do you like writing things like this? Like, because it happens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that's dope. Zukiswa, just, I don't know whether you know Zukiswa, but Zukiswa is mad at you for not recognizing her as a Zambian writer.
she is. Oh my God. I don't know
But
what should I
she
do. Okay,
can't be,
so
she can't be all of these things. She must decide when. She can't.
let me finish.
This
Let
woman
me
wants
finish.
to represent every country. This is why people think Africa is a country, because we have one writer. Nah, Zukiswa must respect us. She must respect us.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Zukiswa, like in Zambian culture, if someone I owe you a chicken. I owe you a white chicken, but it's going to be live.
No, no, don't mention chickens. This Afrolit festival has a bad history with chickens. No more chickens.
I didn't know. Hey.
Yeah, no. Don't mention chickens. Certain writers who might be living in the US might think you're threatening their chickens. So, the Dengo wants to know, which cuisine from Zambia has a habit of making its way into Zambian literature. So, like, you know how every Nigerian likes cola, and every Ghanaian likes jollof, and every South African doesn't have food. So, you know, like, what is the Zambian food that makes it to
Shima.
You know, that's the one that makes people, puts you to sleep one time.
It does, right? I always tell people, it's the first thing I cook for people when they meet me here. And I tell them, look, don't underestimate this. Just take a small portion because you won't be able to move. And they're like, I need more. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Nshima is not to be played around. South Africans don't know. They have this other thing called pap, which is just summer pap, man. It's
like
flat,
they haven't finished cooking the Nshima.
Yeah, bruh. And they never understand why us from the other tropics, we don't understand this pap thing, man. We have other things. Yo. Okay.
Yeah.
Troy from Kenya wants to know. By the way, Troy is just like a random guy who's been following this festival from the get-go. We don't know who this brother is, but he wants to know, short story or novel, which one is easier to write for you?
Short story.
Why?
Because it takes less time.
Fair enough, but what if like the short story is like hard? Like,
I
it's
stop.
a challenge story.
I go do something else. Some short stories are hard though to come out. But definitely they still won't take as long as like a novel. Plus my short stories are like short, right? So the longest short
Yeah.
story I have is maybe 3,500 words.
Only
Yeah. Short.
3,500 is an introduction.
Stop shaming
Just
me.
warming
It's
up
fine.
when 3,500, we
What?
are just warming up. The pot is still boiling at 3,500.
Maybe when I get my MFA, I'll start writing those
Wait.
10,000 word short stories.
Yeah, yeah. This is a good point to ask Maza's question. Maza is also another young writer who's just starting out on her career. She's got 2 novels out, and we're really just waiting for a third one because everyone knows you only make it by the third anyway. But Maza wants to know. I'm joking. Maza wants to know.
I know.
Can you talk about how a writing program such as your MFA has affected your writing, if at all?
It hasn't yet. It
It
hasn't yet.
hasn't yet.
And
But how
and
do you
me being the
maintain?
super planner, that I'm already planning what I'm doing for my thesis. I don't know how my professors would take it, but I already have a plan for what my thesis book will be.
How do you maintain that, what do you call it, freedom or independence from having your own way of writing and not being told like, this is what you must do, this is what happens, how do you maintain that independence in your writing?
From professors, I don't know yet, but I'll tell you, I'm named after a tree that many men have struggled to bring down. So,
Oh wow,
I
this
can
is
be a
a
bit
good
stubborn.
time for innuendo. Did you hear that,
Yep,
guys? Get your comments ready. She's named after a tree that many men have struggled to bring down.
it's true.
This is a good point because BC has a question. BC has a question. She wants to know, do you make enough time for sex?
In the book or in real life?
Both. Both.
So when I'm writing, my other thing that I struggle with in books is when I write sex scenes, I tend to write like violent sex scenes. I don't know why. My grandma called me in after she read The Morning Bird. She's like, "Do you need to talk about something?" Why?
Was your grandmother a Chizala? We know about these women in Zambia who go around at weddings and introduce people, the
No,
bride group.
no. So
Okay.
she said she wasn't expecting like that much sex, I guess, or that much violence in the sex. So there's sex in the book, just not like, I don't know how to write those scenes where the people are like just having a good time. I don't know why, but yeah. In real life, I guess we could summon my husband downstairs and he could answer the question, but he's very shy and probably will run away. So
Okay. But Mukoma, who is the owner of chickens and the giver of passwords online, wants to know, what are the intergenerational and aesthetic differences between the Achebe generation and our generation? I don't know. Wait. But Mukoma's old, so I don't know whose generation he's talking about. He's not talking about mine for sure. But I think he considers you a peer, but he doesn't
does he?
know. He's got wrinkles, man. He's not your peer. So his skin your skin doesn't
He
have
was
your
judging. He
routine.
was judging a short story contest, and I didn't win. I was on the short list, so I don't know if I'm a peer. Let's start from there.
But what
But
do you think are
also,
the differences between those older writers, the Achebe generation, and let's say the current crop of African literature writers? What do you think are the differences?
so I think we all write. I heard you talking about it this morning, like how you don't like the question of how much of your art is autobiographical, right? But I think all art does come from like a certain autobiographical place. It's just that it's not as obvious as people think, right? So you're not going to like name the character after yourself or whatever. So I think their generation's shared experience is fresh out of colonialism, which our generation doesn't remember, right? I don't, for sure. I was born in 1988. What I think is our trauma kids who were raised in the 90s.
Wait, you're in 88 as well?
Yes.
Yes!
My kids call that super old, by the way.
No. Your kids are rude, bruh. We are the youth, them. We are the youth. The real youth. Not these colonial presidents that we have. We are youth.
Yeah. So I think for me, the shared trauma that we have, children who were raised in the 90s, what I remember so vividly is seeing so many people die. Like seeing all those little tents pitched outside houses because AIDS was happening and no one was talking about it. And everyone's parents and aunts and uncles were dying. And I remember this thing where you would get like someone in your house and they would just be like stuck in the bedroom the whole time. You wouldn't know why they were there, but they were ill. And then one day they were dead. And there's a certain, like, you know, there's an invisibility to being a child. So no one thinks you need to know anything. No one will talk to you about. So maybe we try harder to be like seen and heard and our experiences to be acknowledged, you know?
Yeah. And do you think in the younger crop of writers, of which I'll say we are, do you think we owe some kind of responsibility to the older writers in terms of literature? Like we must always be post-colonial, we must always be, you know, is there a particular narrative that we owe like a specific responsibility to bring up in our literature?
No, I think that's a difficult burden to place on someone. And I also think that this always comes up with like African literature, that we're, as African writers, we're expected to write about specific things, right? And bring light to certain experiences in Africa. But I don't think so. I think writers, like all other artists, should write what they are passionate about, and then that comes out in the work, and that's what makes otherwise it comes out inauthentic, right? If you write something that where your heart doesn't belong, readers can see that, you know.
And what are some topics that you are interested in exploring now? Not like, you know, or did you answer all the questions you felt you needed to answer in your debut novel, and now you've moved on to something else? And what are those topics that are of interest to you right now?
So I think for me, writing is like a form of healing a part of myself, like a part of myself that I'm maybe not able to talk about with a different person, but by creating like a character in a specific world, I can like acknowledge those bits of myself. The main thing that I think I always go back to is death and dying. I don't know why, but like everything in my memory, everything starts the day my mother died. So a lot of in my writing, I think what's the common thing is that my characters often start off their story at about age 10 or 11. So I maybe in a way I feel like that's when my story started or ended. I'm not sure. I like manically circle death, people dying, why are they dying, people coming back from the dead, things like that. I like to think about that a lot. My second book, it's a little bit different, but I'm sure someone will die.
People gotta die, girl. People gotta die.
People do die.
Yeah. And so now, Maza, who is thinking about her third book, and she's really anxious about it. Shame, she's so young. She doesn't know how this literary game works.
She's so youthful, the youth.
Yeah, she needs the advice from the youth them. And she wants to know what's been a challenge for you in your second book. What advice do you have for those starting their second book?
I started it a bit too early. Like, it's like I finished during the first one, put it down, and then started it. And I had to stop for maybe a year. I had to stop to like separate myself from those characters and allow the recreation process for the new ones to begin and really come into themselves, you know. And it took a while for me to find their voices. It's two main characters. It took a while for me to find their voices. So I'd say like take a break. I don't like taking breaks. Hey, I hate feeling like I'm not doing anything. So even when people are like, just take a break, calm down, put everything down and start again. That's my biggest struggle, but it helps to like put things down and then start again. Yeah.
And this is like the most important literary question that's ever been asked, like since the birth of like literature. Like this is the deep one. Would you Which one do you prefer, cocaine or poetry?
Poetry.
But cocaine money.
No, poetry.
So you'd rather have one line of like poetry than like a room full of cash? Come on.
First of all, I can't even write poetry. I've written some poetry and it's bad. Oof. But
the
I do
money,
like, but the money.
money.
So no, there's some people in my life that I have loved and that I've lost to addiction to cocaine. So like even like the word sent shivers up my spine.
Yeah, but to be fair, I've also lost a lot of friends to bad poetry, man. I've lost some brothers, man. I've lost some soldiers in the streets.
Yeah,
Max,
but that's why I don't do it, because that's the day
yeah.
you lose me, right? I'll do one poem and publish it, and people like it was a fluke. She couldn't write.
Which is a good point. I want to ask you, do you think the youth were publishing some dodgy poetry where you're like, ish, I don't know,
Sometimes. I mean, I think there's a funny line between like poetry and like statements, right? Like statements of wisdom. I don't know. Maybe I'll learn some new stuff at my MFA, because I have to do creative writing and something else. So I have to do fiction and something else. So I'll do fiction and poetry. But sometimes I read these poetry collections, I finish and I'm like, I'm not sure.
Oh, for real. No, I think we're getting away with some. The youth gets away with a lot of murder these days.
We get away with a lot.
Yeah, get away with a lot. Yeah.
But we're
Max,
also like, at the same time, the standard is super high for us. We get away with a lot, but also like the flip side of like, they expect you to be like a genius right away.
Yeah, no, I agree. Max says that writing is about a part of, or he says that writing is about a part of himself that he can't talk about. And so his question is that why you write a lot about violent sex?
No, it's not why I write about violent sex, but it is why I write a lot about death. Because I think what I remember my experience from like the feeling of losing my parents is feeling like I was being bothersome when I talked about it or like felt it. So then just going back to making up stories. But it's not why I write. But I don't know why I write about that. My friends come back every time they read a story. Again, with this Mubanga, let's talk about it. I'm like, I don't know why. Maybe I'll go to a therapist one day and we'll uncover something. I'll be crying. I'll do an Instagram live, do a confession. I don't know why.
Yeah. Nah, we hear you. Before we leave, we have to ask, what is your skincare routine?
Do I have a skincare routine? I went vegetarian 5 months ago, so I think that's helping.
Oh, wow. You really are in an MFA program.
No, but meat here is not the same like meat at home. So you can live without it.
Okay, so the trick is vegetarianism.
That's the only thing.
Yeah. And Zukiswa wants to know, do you prefer cold fronts or flaming bottoms? Because on Monday, Dillman introduced us to a lovely phrase about charcoal burning from an anus. So she wants to know, would you rather have cold fronts or flaming bottoms?
Just as a lawyer, can I plead the fifth? I'm not sure.
Yes, you can plead it.
Yeah,
and then
so
I have a question. Did you find that your previous experience, either in law school or being a practicing lawyer, was of use to you when writing your fiction?
Just as far as discipline goes, sticking to my writing schedule. I don't like to write. I mean, in my current book, there are a lot of court scenes, but I don't like to tap into that, like the actual physical experience of what litigation was like. But as far as discipline goes, because law school is just madness. You just survive off of little sleep, lots of coffee and alcohol. So just that.
Yeah. Um, Philly wants to know, while writing The Morning Bird, did Eve want to give? Did Eve want to give on it?
Did
Did you
Eve?
ever want to give up on it? Did you ever want to give up while writing your manuscript?
No. No.
Just no, just no.
Just no. So the only thing that helps for me is I plan my novel from start to finish. I know what's going to happen in every chapter, at least the main thing. I know the main thing that's going to happen. So that helps me, like, when on the days when I don't feel like writing, at least I can lean on, Chimuka's father is dying in this one. So I can just write around that. But no, I don't, cliche as it sounds, like I don't quit. I'm just so, once I start, I'm like, I have to finish.
Yeah.
So
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Like I think you shouldn't give up on your own writing. Yeah. And then there's no, there's not a question, but I want to know from you personally, what do you think? Yeah, what do you think is more, what is like a greater or like a ridiculous, what is an example of fantastical imagination? Is it A, Chipolo Polo winning the World Cup, or Bafana winning the World Cup?
How dare you? How dare you? We are moving.
But
so
which one is more, which one is like out of the realm, which one exists in the realm of
out
facts?
of the realms
Chipolo
of
Polo or
conjecture?
Bafana?
Look, Chipolo Polo are going to win the World Cup one day. Okay? And you're all going to learn the Zambian national anthem. So that's all.
So
I'm
it's
saying.
Bafana, but Bafana is fiction, eh? We agree, it's fiction.
Look, you are the one making that conclusion. I have made a statement. Okay? And I'm sticking to it. Final answer.
Fair enough, fair enough. Mukoma wants to know, do you think there is a growing divide between writers based on the continent and those who are outside?
I'm not sure. I when I started writing, I was in Zambia, and then when I got published, I was studying in the US. But I do get some feedback. Like, I think people assume, because they assume I've always been here. And then they also assume like a certain access to things because I'm here. I do hear that. I hope not. And probably I'm being naive about it. I hope not.
And do you think being abroad has changed the way you relate to particular things that you write about in your fiction? Do you think, like, oh wait, now I'm here in the US, I've got to frame this differently so I don't come across as privileged or something? Has it affected your writing?
No, it's affected my writing in smaller ways, right? So I get so used to hearing people saying pop that I'll slip in a story and say pop instead of like soft drink. And then my friends who are reading it will be like, what is this? So
you've already started like incorporating Americanisms into
no,
your writing.
I always pull them out because I'm always telling Zambian stories, right? So can there's no Zambian kid going, can I have some pop? No.
Yeah. Oh, Maza wants to know, do you like my beanie?
Do I like what?
My beanie, my skull cap, apparently.
Oh, I like it. It's good. I like it.
These are the questions. Can you imagine?
Color.
These are the questions that trouble some of our greatest literary minds.
Greatest literary giants of our time.
We must just let the youth take over if this is what we're going to be dealing with.
I mean, we're talking about what we're covering our heads with. It's called
Imagine, Mubanga, can you imagine if this is what the writers are thinking about? What are the politicians thinking about? Me, I'm worried.
Don't get me started on the politics. Let's just stick to Polo Polo winning the World Cup and end it before I start crying.
I am worried. I'm very worried. And then BC wanted to know your lipstick. Where did you get it?
From a market in Zambia. In Kabwe. Like a street store. So it's not even a branded lipstick. I just saw it and like.
Are you sure it's not like witchcraft ingredients you put on your on your
I can't
lips?
start giving such details. If I tell you, someone must die. Let people in my story die, but not people on the list.
Nice. Okay. I think we have time for one more question before Instagram tells us we are out of time. So who's got a
Okay.
question? Let's see. I've already asked the lipstick question. I've already asked. Yeah, so we have time for one more. So somebody compose something nice and
clever.
Yeah, a clever question as a belief. We definitely won't be getting one from Maza, not one from Mukoma, not one from Leye. Oh, okay. What? Oh, BC
Anyone
wants
try
to know.
to taste it?
BC has a question. Another great literary mind of our continent wants to know. Has anyone tried to taste the lipstick while it's on you?
You people want me to be giving confessions. I haven't even seen all the people who are viewing this. Probably just myself. This is probably the first time I've had lipstick on for an hour and it stayed on. I've always been that person. I have lipstick in the morning, by 10 a.m. it's all gone. So sorry to disappoint.
All right. So, and then Mukoma, who is living in upstate New York and attended one too many literary festivals, has asked, how has COVID changed how you view your writing?
I know I'm a bit antisocial and don't like seeing people and just stick inside and enjoy my writing time in the middle of the night. So it's just changed. Now I'm like, damn, I miss the free donuts in the law school, even if I'm not talking to people. I just miss being outside easily without like having to plan where are there the fewest people, where are we safest, especially with children. That's what it's affected.
Yeah. Nah, thanks. I think we're gonna.
I see a good one.
What
am I most grateful for? Time. I'm always grateful to have time to write.
All right. Lovely. We're going to run out of time. Instagram is going to tell us that we're going to get cut now. So thanks everyone for having logged in and joined me and Mubanga. Mubanga, thanks so much for making time to be with us, sharing your wit and your wisdom. Really wish you all the best with your future, with your current and future writing. All the best with the MFA program. Like we're all excited for like your next work.
Fingers crossed for you too. You know what?
Thanks so much, Mubanga. Appreciate it.
I want to claim you, so win.
Thank you. Okay. Just quickly before I log off, please remember that once you log off, press the X button in the corner, and then a window will show up saying share to IGTV, and then just share. Otherwise, Ukiswa will kill me, man. And I don't want I don't want that Zambian voodoo on me. So
Okay.
So just please exit and then share it to IGTV.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.